Pendientes del mercado español, hoy con buenas noticias. Una de las empresas más importantes del mercado cripto aterriza, desembarca en España y nosotros tenemos el placer de contar con su CEO. Tenemos en los estudios de negocios televisión a Erald Ghoos, CEO de OKX. Hi Erald.
Hello.
Thanks for coming here from Negocios TV. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on your show. Always good to be in Madrid.
Bueno, hoy tiene un evento muy importante OKX, como decía, tenemos con nosotros a su CEO en un momento importante para el mercado cripto, un momento marcado por la adopción institucional y también, bueno, por estas grandes empresas que poco a poco van desembarcando en España gracias a esta ley MiCA. Erald, you are the CEO of OKX at a key moment for the industry. What does it mean to you on a personal and professional level to lead one of the most influential companies in the crypto world?
Yeah. So a little bit of history there, right? Like Bitcoin and crypto, it arguably exists since 2009, right? The first few years around it, it was always quite questionable on how crypto is going to survive. Is it going to have a substance? Is it going to be meaningful? Is it going to continue to exist? So the first years were quite doubtful. Then over time, it became much more embedded. More people started to invest in it. Institutional companies started to invest in it. It got more gravity. Now, also over the years, what we have seen is there have been ups and downs in crypto. Bear markets, crypto winters, bad actors in the space, major hacks, moments of complete downtime in crypto. Still, crypto has shown to be very robust, right? So in the first years of my career, I was more involved in traditional finance. Then in 2017, I started my first engagement in crypto. After that moment, I started to become quite educated about it. I started to learn much more about it. Something clicked in my head. And since then, I'm very passionate about it. I think it's one of the more influential industries at this moment in time to be engaged in, together with AI and other of those high-tech, leading, future innovative kind of technologies. So personally, I'm very passionate about being involved in crypto. Working then also for a company like OKX that has already been in the industry since 2012, 2013, very early player in the whole crypto space. Global, very strong, empowered, now also making its first entries into Europe. I couldn't be prouder to be part of this industry and also of OKX.
In the crypto market, in the crypto world, we have very good news. We are waiting for the MiCA law. This regulation could give a new impetus to Europe. What advantages does it provide to OKX?
So MiCA, a buzzword that has been, been talked about already over the last few years. Now also let me go back a little bit back in the past. Now over the past few years in the beginning of crypto, it was more of the wild, wild west, right? The best what was happening is maybe some companies were doing self-regulation. A couple of bad actors were in play. Governments had to step in different countries around the world, different geographies. They said we have to protect the end consumer. There has to be some consumer protection here. We need to make sure that we set like a level playing field where all the industry players in crypto need to keep themselves up to certain standards. Then we saw over the world different kind of crypto regulations starting to take place. Now in Europe also some countries, some member states of the EU set up different types of regulations. Some of them they regulated themselves, they had some registration, some licensing. It was a little bit of a patchwork throughout the whole European Union in terms of crypto regulation. For global players like us to enter then into Europe becomes very difficult because every country, every one of the 27 EU member states was applying different type of crypto regulation. To set up a shop, to set up an entity, to comply with all those local regulations was a very intense work. Then the European Union, the European Commission, they said like we have to stop this. We need to come up with like a pan-European crypto regulation, which they named Markets in Crypto Assets, short MiCA, which has the same kind of strategy and setup as banking licenses or e-money licenses or payment interface licenses. So that once you have a license in one of the member states in Europe, you can passport from that member state throughout all the European Union, giving access to more than 450 million people. So for us as a global player, that MiCA legislation came as a very welcome event, right? It made us allowed to get one license in Europe and then from their passport and offer our services to the whole European Union. So we are very welcoming of that. On the other hand side, what we also do want to call out for caution is overregulation, right? Crypto is at its infancy, right? There is still like a lot of technological advancements that we can make there. What we don't want to have is that we become too tied because of regulation, that it limits and reduces innovation. What we now also see coming from America, the previous regulation, the previous administration in the United States was a little bit unclear about how to regulate crypto. Under the new regulation in the US, under the new administration in the US, there seems to be more of a positive adoption of it. They tend to come up with like a new crypto regulation in the US that seemingly is quite progressive and friendly towards crypto. So we now have to see how different geographies, America, US, Asia, is going to regulate crypto, if it's going to shift some of the weight from one geography to the other, back and forth. So that's a very interesting tendency that we're going to see play out.
Well, waiting for Micah, you are landing in Spain. I would like to ask you about that. You have a really important event today. How important is the Spanish market for your strategy?
Spain is in one of our key markets in Europe, right? The president of the group, Hong Fang, she mentioned that it's always important to go deep in a market before you go wide. What that means is we first want to have certain successes in Europe before we are starting to conquer the entire European landscape. We have identified 5 key markets in Europe where we want to be first successful in. Those are not necessarily the larger economies like Germany, France, Spain, Netherlands, and Poland, right? So those are some of the key markets where we want to go in first. Why Spain? What we've seen in Spain is other than the high GDP, the size of the population, we also see a high crypto adoption rate. One of the very interesting statistics is that we received from the ECB, the European Central Bank, end of last year in 2024, is that right now the number of crypto adoption, the people who hold crypto in Spain, is now around 8 to 9%. That is significantly more than what it was 2 years before, where it was merely 4%. That means in the last 2 years that it already doubled the number of crypto holders in Spain. So that also shows that there is definitely an upward trend in Spain. People are getting more educated about it, they're getting more interested in it, they're getting more access to it. What we see on our side in OKX, since we have our MiCA license in Europe, it also puts more of a stamp of trust on the industry, on the asset class, on the company. So right now we see a much higher inflow because of people who were a bit hesitant before in Spain. They now say like, it is regulated, right? It is following the right regulatory standards. Let's try to invest in it. We see much more diversification happening in crypto as an asset class, particularly from Spain.
The last question, Erald, we are talking about the regulation, we are talking about Bitcoin above the 100,000, he's surpassing the 100,000 in the market. What do you think about Donald Trump, the Fed, Jerome Powell talking about Bitcoin? Are you seeing a change in the market in the last months?
100%. We also see much more capital inflow in crypto. More of the institutional players, pension funds, large institutional players are actively buying. Companies who have been buying before to have crypto on their balance sheet, it was not a one-off buy. We now see them adding more and more and more crypto to their balance sheet. So that new change from the new administration in the US, we see that this also transcends globally in Europe, in Asia, that it embeds crypto and Web3 and blockchain technology more as a sure thing, right? It is not anymore like, what is the US, the #1 leading economy, trendsetter, going to do? We now see that there is like a much more positive trend towards. It instills trust, it instills adoption, it instills innovation. So in that sense, we're very, very bullish and quite optimistic about the future.
Well, we are very bullish with the crypto market. Thanks for coming here for Northwest TV, and good luck in this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Erald.
Thank you.